What's up, guys, and welcome back. I'm Mash. I'm a master level instructor in the art of Zhongshin Dao Yili Chuan and a student of Grandmaster Sam F.S. Chen. Today, we're back with another guest in our series of masters of other styles and schools. And today, I'm here with Serge Augier. He is the heir to the Dashwan tradition, which is a family style of Taoist arts, which includes the five traditional aspects of Taoist teachings, including mind, body, spiritual, emotional, and the esoteric aspects of the Taoist tradition, which would basically be, you could say, is like Taoist magic. These days, Serge is developing an in-depth program to be taught at the university level in France, which includes one bachelor's degree, 4 master's degree, and 5 different doctorate programs. Serge, thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit more about all these things?
Sure. The Daxuan tradition is an old tradition that in the mythic tradition comes from the 510 in the Kowloon Mountains, and it's a very old tradition from the shamans. This clan Taoism is about developing the different aspects of a human being. It's pretty much like a human being notices how to work, how to make it work. Then we make the body work better, the mind, the energy, the vitality, the emotions, and we work on the esoterics. And of course, for today's world, the best thing we can do is to help the medicine, the healthy aspect of society today. That's why we develop in the world, and it's mostly based in the US, in Canada, the university, and of course online for everybody. This is what we do in the tradition.
All right, very cool. Can you tell me like a little bit more about your background, like your personal background with martial arts? How did you get started? How did you get started in particular with the Dashwan and go
Sure.
from there?
In fact, in our tradition, in the Daxuan Taoism, martial art is a small aspect. It's a small aspect because at the time of Tang Dynasty, it was pretty much life or death situation. When you step outside in the wilderness, you could die because people will kill you. Then at the time, working on yourself as today is building up your internal temple. It's a real work. I mean, it takes us so many hours. You cannot let people, especially bad people, come and destroy everything. Then we have developed very soon in the Tang Dynasty a martial art just to defend ourselves, to not die and not spoil all the work we have done on ourselves. But this tradition became more and more interesting because you had so many wars and the system was so practical. It was very easy to be taught and very easy to be developed. Then it became a bigger thing. Today, I'm really into it myself, but for my own taste. And when I was young, my master needed to teach me more martial arts because I was a little weak. I was a little fragile, and he wanted me to be healthy. Then he pushed the young aspect of the tradition when I was young. And I did a lot of martial art. That's why some of my students do a lot of martial art, but it's a small aspect of the Daxuan tradition. Mm-hmm. I started because when I was young, my family had a political refugee that lived with us. And this man speak a little Chinese, English together. And this man didn't really work and he had to do some work. And one time he asked my parents and he said, I don't know what to do, but I can make your son stop being sick all the time because I was always sick. I was always fragile and getting always cold and everything. And then he took care of me and started teaching me. Slowly, I started to enjoy it. And then I start to go really into the tradition, getting older, to the most of Negong, Nedan, all the work on spirituality, and that came later. But first, I basically trained to survive because I was so fragile.
And so would you say that is because like you saw the benefit of the improvements to your health and so on, that motivated you to continue on with training?
Well, I was a skinny kid and I was from a good family, which means I was a skinny kid well dressed in a tough 1980s neighborhood, which means I was in trouble all the time. And I was skinny and I was not feeling so good at the beginning. But then I realized that with martial art, I could pretty much deal with all the situation. Then I start to think, maybe it's not fun because I couldn't watch TV. I had to train before school and after school. All the summer vacation were pretty much training. I would carry weight and I would do so many of the weirdest Waigong and external training to forge my body. Then I was not very happy when I was a kid. But then I realized, oh, I'm good. I mean, I'm very safe, and then it made me appreciate the training. Then I went deeper into it around 12, 13. Then I start to train the whole system.
Mm-hmm. So can you give us a little bit more idea about how, I mean, it sounds to me that, it's like human life in general is complex, right? Yes. We have so many different aspects of human existence. Sure. And so it sounds like the Dashwan system has an approach to developing ourselves in each of these different areas. So can you give us an idea a bit more about that and how, like, on each of the 5 different subjects?
The most important is to realize that this is like the Western alchemical idea. The alchemy idea is very simple. What is alchemy? You take something that is complex, you breaking down into smaller or simpler stuff, you make all this simpler part better, try to be perfect, and then you put it back together and it's as perfect as it can be. What we are as human beings is a body, and we have to take care of the body. And the Taoist say body is as important as mind and as important as breath for vitality. Then body, breath, vitality, which is pretty much what we call chi or energy, and mind, the way we understand the world. If my mind doesn't work, the world cannot be a good place because I don't catch it right. Then these 3 things are difficult and very complex. Then we break it down into a lot of little components and work and practices and realization until they get better. And then slowly we make practices that not only are for mind or body or breath, but practices that are for the human being as one. Then first we break them down, work on them, and slowly work them to be one practice. As we do in physical training, first you have to work the body because it doesn't move. Then you have to work the body, but with more intent and the feeling. It becomes Waigong to Negong, external training to internal training. And then I do the same thing, but I stop moving. And then the chi and my mind will communicate together better because it's fluid and I train my body and my breath, but I will stop moving and let it come and move inside. This is more the Shun or Shungong, Shundan training.
Mm-hmm. So can you just give us like some specific examples from each section of the training?
Of course. First, the physical body, it's about link and chains of muscle and tendons in the system. We need to work as one. The body needs to be grounded. I mean, grounded for real. Somebody push you, it doesn't move. Pull you, it doesn't move. Grounded. Strong. We cannot be as weak as society today pushes to be. The society today make us sit too long, do little things with the phone and stuff. We are the weakest humans since the beginning. Then we need to move around. We need to be strong. And this is the part where a lot of people don't follow because they want to do Tai Chi because it's not too physical. Well, yeah, it's physical too. You need to make it physical. Then first, we have basic hand, very simple way to move in all directions. We have 64 exercises for force and flexibility. This is the main physical aspect. And for people who like it, they go into martial arts. But our martial arts is, we don't have gloves and stuff. We get hurt a lot. Not too many people want to do. But we don't need to do. That's one of the possibilities. Then we have the breath training, where we do the same physical movement, but the intent is no more on the movement because the movement is good, but on the feeling of the movement, on the breath, on the condense and compress kind of breathing, going to all the different type of breath training, then this gives you abundant chi, abundant energy. When you have a lot of energy, this energy needs to be moving, because no energy is emptiness of chi. It's a disease in Chinese medicine. But big amount of energy not moving, it's a disease too. It's called stagnation of chi. Then you need a lot of chi, but in movement. We have a strong body. We know how to use the breath. Then we have to work for the mind. The mind has two main branches of training. One is to make the mind available for whatever we want to do. If I want to be working, I will be 100% working. If I want to be talking to my loved ones, I should be 100% to my loved one. And this is so much against today's society. And the phone and the thing and the music and it's very difficult. But this Shengong is really gymnastic of the mind. But then we have Shendan. Shendan is a sitting practice like Jingzhou or sitting to forget. These are practices for elevating the mind to change who we are towards a better idea of who we are. Because for most of the people who train in their life, they realize that when they are 40 years old, they have the same problem that they had when they were a teenager. We get stronger, wiser, maybe more mellow because we get older, but we have the same problem. We have a relationship problem, we have a different little behavior problem that don't change. With Shendan or sitting, silent or immobile sitting, then you can actually transform, that's the part of alchemy, transform the way you behave with yourself, with others, with society. All this is slowly being trained together. For example, we have one called the 9 circle of Shen, the 9 circle of the mind, where you train the body in a motion with a certain type of breathing and a certain type of meditation. It's like moving meditation. And all this can be trained with esoterics, where it's not only breath that we inhale, but it's certain type of light or spirituality or ideas of God or things like this. And then we bring more of the old shamanic Taoism. It's the same principle, but it's not only air that come in and out, but it's idea, concept, spirituality. All this is basic training, which means every day we have a certain amount of time that we dedicate to our training. And we take this time and we cut it in 3 parts. One physical, one the breath, and one the mind. And then slowly become one.
I'm really curious about some of the esoteric exercises, but
Sure.
before we move in that direction, can you give me a little bit more detail from your perspective? So, my background with Yiluchuan, the majority of our emphasis on the training of the mind is more from Zen, right? Yeah. So can you give us some, like, compare and contrast what are some of the similarities and some of the differences from,
of course,
for training the mind from the Taoist perspective?
The main idea and the biggest difference is that in the Zen or Chan training at the beginning, the Chan training became Zen training. The Japanese idea and the Buddhist idea do not have this love of the body as we have in Taoism, which means in Zen, if it's painful, if you don't feel right, well, you stay, and somebody will even strike you on the trapeze muscle if you fall asleep. In Taoism, we really believe that the body, the breath, and the mind have the same quality, which means all the meditation needs to be respecting the body, and the body should be one of the foundation of the mind training, which means it's really linked. It's a lot more linked because the actual respect of the body is a lot bigger than in the Buddhist idea of Zen and even in Chan. But it's really physical, the beginning. The first level in Taoist meditation, it's a long process that is called sitting and forgetting, which is a focus on the focus attention part of consciousness. It's telling you mostly about alignment, getting ready, how to relax. It's really like a relaxation exercise, because if your body, which is carrying your mind and your spirit towards the meditation, is not good, nothing will be good. We have specific meditation training for the back, then the back can stay right without being painful, without being in pain. Or we have specific glutes exercise, then we don't hurt when we sit for a long time. Then the mind and body are really together in these exercises, a lot more than in Zen. The second big idea is that since the Tang dynasty, we recorded all the question and all that happened to the student and the master when they practice and they exchange, which means most of the time in Zen, when you practice and you say, oh, I see this, I feel that, the teacher will say, yeah, sit and continue. And then when you will solve it by yourself, you will have the answer. In the Taoist tradition, you have, I have maybe like nearly half a meter of books on what will happen, how it will happen, what you should say to the student, what is really happening, but what you should say to the student when he is not freaked out. And you have really a lot of answers. The answers are a very big part of Taoist sitting and forgetting.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit more now about the esoteric exercises from Dashwan.
When I was taught, when I was young, I learned magic as real as the martial arts. I mean, for my master, it was the same thing. And when I learned later in Taoism, they put it at the same level of reality. Today, when we talk magic, most of the people in the Western world, they laugh a little. But if you look at the whole world, we have the only one laughing, because most of the big countries, they don't laugh. Africa, Russia, China, South America, magic is pretty much there as real as the rest. Then the training is twofold. First, you have the yin training. Yin training is pretty much making you a better receptor to the subtle energy, subtle messages, subtle feeling that you may have. Then you become a better witness of what the natural world, the universe, maybe the spirit if they exist, or stuff like this. You are more sensitive and you can feel things. Then we have the yang aspect, which is pretty much understanding what we call the changes of the world, which are the I Ching changes of the world. And then you recognize every situation, which are pretty much a layer of yin and yang put together. And then when you understand the situation, you try to make it change towards the good yin and yang situation you want. If you know the I Ching, there are full and broken lines that represent 64 capacity of manifestation, doing 384 solution with the lines changing. This can be pretty much representing any situation that we can see in the manifestation and inside me. Emotion, weather, people arguing, spirituality. There are all these situations that we can put into this gua, 6 lines. And then because we learn this, we are, this situation, I can say it's like this. But I want this situation. What is the difference? Well, you have line changing there and there. Let's make this change. Let's push the word, then the line are changing and the situation I don't like become a situation I like. That's pretty much Taoist magic.
And your experience, so if we relate somewhat from we say like Tai Chi principles, right? So one of the, from Yi Chuan perspective, right, one of the major qualities of Tai Chi principles, I guess you could say, is that like everything has a limit, right? So in your experience, what are some of the limitations of this Taoist magic?
Limitation is fantasy. We all have a fantasy of what we read, what we see on movies and stuff, and we will not be agitating a small piece of wood and have any change come in front of us. We will not make a lightning ball in the hand and stuff. This is fantasy. But in fact, it's very difficult because people have to understand that the Taoist magic is really provoking changes. But the difficulty is how much I understand my real situation. If I understand my real situation and I really want this new situation, and both they are in truth, which means I really understand my situation and I really see where I want to go and I really want this, then the changes can be pretty strong. I mean, everybody practicing have at least one or two stories that freaks them out. But if you don't really know who you are, you don't really know your problem, but you don't feel good, and you imagine some situation that you don't really want, but that's what comes in your mind because your mind is not balanced yet, then you don't know this one, you don't know this one, you're not going anywhere. Plus, you will be disappointed, and then you will stop all this magic thing because it doesn't work. The limit is there. The limit is you have to understand that these changes, they take time. If you make a changes for something specific, it will take time, and maybe the deadline will be so much before the actual change. Then as soon as people understand the rules and get rid of all the weird fantasy, it's working pretty good. But the limitation will be this, the expectation, the fantasy that we have.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds almost like, you know, like what Sifu talks about when he talks about like meet and match, right? Like first we have to meet, you know, as it is in order to be able to, you know, feed the right energy to be able to lead to the change that we want to see. So it's very interesting. So can you give me an idea of, it's interesting too, I think, talking with you, because I think from slightly different perspectives, but actually sort of we quite agree on some of the same things, where it's like, because, you know, in the 21st century, technology has created such artificial living conditions. You know, basically the technology has advanced faster than our evolution as human beings is able to keep up with. So, you know, physically you can say, or physiologically, we're the same people that existed in the last ice age, right? And our bodies have the same need for physical activity that they had at that time. But in modern day, it's like you don't even have to get out of bed if you don't want to. You can order, you know, pick up your phone and order food to be brought, you know, directly to you 24 hours a day. So it's a very artificial type of living situation that we're in. So we have to sort of artificially recreate some of those stresses on our body, right?
Yes, so, and one more thing on this, which is very interesting. The second big thing of today's world is that you have a big amount of fear. People are afraid of stuff, of everything. When I am 54, I live at a time where you go outside the home, the parents say, come tonight, you live your life, and you come back. Most of us survived. But the way we did it was in a world where you have to really discover and do your own experiences. Today, no kids come out, they have a phone, they don't come too far, they cannot do anything. If you do something, it's judged, or people will take picture, and then everything is afraid of how people will perceive me, or what I could do or not do, what I should experience or not, if somebody will be filming me or taking picture of me, or if I put picture, people will say bad things. This is really weird, and it is not human material at the beginning. And then it makes the people a little crazy about outside. Everything is outside. What I appear, people criticize what I do, it's outside. And then to go inside, what is pretty much what we do in martial arts, in meditation, in energy cultivation, is going back to one, to me. Then I can radiate to the world. But this coming back is very difficult because everything is about outside. Even some pretty good teacher, they spend too much time doing videos and stuff to show that they are good. To it became like a circus. And this is a problem too. Not only the people are weaker, but the people are afraid of everything.
Yeah. Well, I think I think that you bring up an interesting point where it's like, because of the situation that we have, kids don't have the freedom to make mistakes.
Exactly.
Because everything is going to be recorded, and those mistakes can haunt you for a long time. Sort of like what we see with all this kind of cancel culture stuff. Where people make a tweet like 12 years ago and then they get fired from their job, or all that kind of stuff, where it's like, because of that digital record now. So since we're on this topic, what are some of the other effects you think that technology is having on training, both good and bad?
The good thing is about knowledge, because we live in a beautiful time for this. If you want to know about this weirdest hidden tradition in the middle of the mountain in Himalayas, it takes you 20 minutes to have somebody who wrote something about it, and you have access to everything. This is pretty cool. At the same time, it gives us what we call the choice paradox. The more you have choices, the less you do, because you have too many choices, then you don't do. And that's a big problem. But if you know how to use it, it's pretty cool. Before, I would always travel with so many books and stuff. Now, today, in my iPad, I have 900 books with me all the time. I have all my traditional books. This is good. I mean, it's beautiful. And I can travel easily anywhere and see everybody. I mean, this is the nice numeric edge, is a good thing. The worst thing for me is the incapacity of being focused. That's the number one. A lot of people have problems today to stay there and be focused on something. For 15 years, I would go twice a year in Hong Kong, teach martial arts. And Hong Kong is a beautiful laboratory of unfocus. And when I would go and teach, I would show some stuff, and the student will do it one time, and then after they go on their phone. And you say, but what are you doing? You say, oh, it's okay. I got it. It's good. No, you didn't get it at all. And that's the problem. The unfocus and the need of feeding them all the time. It's like babysitting a very hungry kid. Always you have to give him something. If not, he doesn't know what to do. And this is a problem. This is one thing we do not let go in our school, which means we do simple exercise to train, simple Negong or Qigong, and then you have to repeat. And then no, you will not have more until you get this right, because it's useless if not. And if you don't like it, you have so many schools that do the opposite, But we want to keep the quality, because I think today we really need to give a possibility to people to go back to their focus. And today, the numeric edge destroys the focus. The second thing is the common sense, the good sense is dead. Which means people, they will go on YouTube for answers, and then they will be surprised that it's difficult. They will they will go and look at this video saying, oh, I teach you how to be the best Qigong master in 2 days. And people, they do it, and they say, oh, but I did my 2-day seminar to become a master now. If they look for some martial arts, they will easily go to YouTube to get the deadly technique, but they will not go to a studio, because it's so, like the delivery you were talking about, so much easier. Go on YouTube and it's free. So much easier. I go, I look, and now I pretend. Then this is a problem, because we call it the vomit culture. Somebody shoot it a little, give it to another guy, shoot it a little, and vomit it on YouTube. And people, they take it as reality. This is a problem.
A very sort of superficial.
Yeah.
What about with regards to the esoteric aspects of Dashwan? Is there any specific interaction between technology and that aspect of the training?
In fact, once again, we do, for example, the Taoist fu, the talisman, the magic talisman. Before, you needed to draw so many, you needed a good paper. Now you can use the iPad to train, for example. This is a very good aspect. For all the chanting and stuff, we have basic music or basic drumming with a digital aspect. Then this is a help to the spiritual. At the same time, people, they don't sleep good with iPad and iPhone all the time. They don't sleep as good as before because they have too much blue light, which means all what we do at night, all the dream training, lucid dream training, all the night practices or Shuigong, the sleeping meditation, is very difficult for people today.
I'm glad that you brought that up. Actually, can we talk? I just had written another article where I touched a little bit on some of the lucid dreaming and the Taoist dream yoga, but it was just a very little bit. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. You have two things. One is the lucid dream training, which is being awakened consciously in your dream, staying in your sleeping mode. Then you have dreaming meditation, Shuigong, which is a type of meditation where you pretend to sleep, but you don't sleep. It's the dream alchemy. This one is a type of Shandan, is a type of evolution of the mind, and it's mixing the body, the breath, and the dream together. The lucid dreaming, it's only getting back the consciousness that we have right now in the dreaming mode, in the sleeping mode. This is very important because when I am asleep, if I wake up in my dream, not only I have choice, like sometimes people with no experience, they experience having choices in their dream. They can do this or that. And this is nearly this, but conscious like we had now. Now, if I want to raise my hand, I can do it as many times as I want. I'm not limited by my unconscious process. In my dream, maybe I can move a little thing, but soon I will be limited and my dream will change and I will go back into unconscious dreaming. The lucid dreaming is really first about waking up. And then when you wake up in your dream, stay up, which means it's called fattening or thickening the dream to make the dream resistant enough for your consciousness. And then we have 64 practices to do in your dream. Practices that will not be so easy to do in the normal state. For example, one is dying. Dying can be done in the conscious state, but it's very definitive. In my dream, I can really play and experiment with the dying process.
Interesting. What are some of the other specific exercises that you would be doing during a lucid dreaming?
One of the big exercises we have at the beginning, it's really about everything we carry in our genetics, education, family, history of a family, and even the place where you are born. We are, when you are awake in your dream, when you start experiencing lucidity, you will, for example, look into water or into a mirror and look at yourself. And when you do this, which is very difficult when you dream to stay focused on the image, like writing, for example, is very difficult too, then you will see an image that is very much linked to what you feel about yourself more than what you say about yourself in the real world. Then seeing your image can teach you a lot. Maybe you will see a parent, maybe you will see some family members, maybe you will see something completely different. It's very interesting. And when you can look at yourself and you get knowledge from it, and we have books that talk about the answers that you can get, you will say your name or write your name. You will say or write your name. And then the echo or the feedback of your name being pronounced as an incantation in your dream is always bringing you some pretty funky stuff.
So is it sort of like exploring different layers of your subconsciousness through the dreaming process?
You have something called Wushen, the five mind. One is the actual consciousness. One is part of feeling the body and the limits in the sky, in the space. One is more the spirituality. One is more the ego. One is more the capacity for your mind to actually go into action. All these parts of the mind, they have 3 to 5 expressions. All this needs to be experienced because we may have some part of our own personal mind that is not working, that is not awakened, or that is overdoing stuff. For example, the one which is pretty much the little voice in our head, or the thing that comments everything or talk about too much in my head. This one, I will learn with lucid dreaming how to find him and make him stop talking for a little while. That's a big training. And then the different part of the mind we will experience with them. You meet people from the lineage. You meet people from the dream. Practices that are impossible when you are awake are all available when you are dreaming.
And so you said there was 64 exercises, yeah? So like one for each of the hexagrams. Are they like sequential, so and progressive? So in other words, you have like an easier task, and when you can complete an easier task, you can move on to the next one?
In fact, at the beginning, you open 8 different doors in your dreaming practices. And then each of the doors, they go into details. One is the mind, but the mind and the 5 aspects of mind is only one door. And then you have 7 other doors with different aspects. Then, no, as soon as you have time, I will teach very easily the 8 doors. And then you can play with the 8 doors and slowly dig into it. The problem of lucid dreaming is that it's very vitality consuming. It's draining. You need to have a very good Qigong, Negong, vitality exercises. If not, you will be a lot tired.
And how often do you do the lucid dreaming? Like, do you get to a certain point in your training where every time you go to sleep, you're going to be practicing the lucid dreaming, or do you have certain times and then you just other times you can just take a nap?
Yes, it's really depending of you, your practice. In our tradition, in the lineage, in the Qing dynasty a little later in the tradition, one of the guys was famous to only do all by dreaming. And he was pretty good at other things, but it was mostly dreaming. In my students, 1 or 2 are really dedicated to the dreaming practice, and they do nearly every day. Some, they will just experiment to see that it's possible, and then they will do maybe when they're on vacation, or they will do when they have a lot of time. It can be really a specialization that you go in, or it can be something you do sometime. And for example, when you have big cycles of life that are very sensitive or source of trouble, then you do more of this because you may have more information for you, for your family, for the world, and sometimes you don't.
Are there any risks to this training?
No, the only thing is that you feel tired. If you really force into it and you don't find the right ways, you have a tendency to really feel tired. And because you feel tired, you don't train, you don't do your exercises, then you have less energy, and then you continue the dream, you have less energy, and then at one point you can really be just tired, really tired.
Right. Yeah, because you're not sleeping properly.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you let's go back then a little bit to some of the, let's say I came to you for my first day of training off the street. Like how would we start physically, moving on to some of the qigong and so on?
we have a free set of basic exercises. The first one is really for everybody. The second one starts to be a little intricate. The third one is mostly with the lower part of the body. And this free set of exercises are the first thing you learn when you come in. You learn the first exercise to move your body. At the same time, you are given basic Nedan, hitting the center, being aware of your Dantian exercises. And you are given some basic tranquil sitting, immobile sitting, where you just start to look at your mind to realize it's not home. I mean, you don't know what happened in your head. You know, that's the free thing that you get as soon as you come in. But because today, some people will have a lot of time to train, some people will not have a lot of time to train. People will come or they will join online, and then they will get a huge amount of information. Then if they have time, they will train a lot. If they don't have time, they train what they can. And they have we have very clear cursus where they can do a little, a middle, or a lot of training. But online, and if anybody that join, I give them a lot of possibility to train because, you know, if they have time to train, let's train.
And, you know, that's probably one of the biggest limitations that we have in modern times, right? It's really interesting because technology, again, we keep coming back to this subject of technology, right?
Sure.
Technology has given us the promise of saving time, right?
Well, so it's a lie right now.
Yeah, and it's always been a lie. You know, like the dishwasher is one of my favorite examples, right? They say, oh, you have an automatic dishwasher is going to save you the time of washing dishes. But when you really look at how it plays out, I mean, people, they rinse their dish, then they put it in, then they have to do the dry, and then they have to put it away. It really didn't save them any time, but it saved them energy, like it saved them calories, basically.
And they didn't have their hands in the dirt when they do the thing.
Right. So they're even more disconnected from life, right? So,
yeah.
You know, and now with the smartphones, because we have a constant source of distraction, right? Or constant notifications. I need to check my email. I have to follow up with these calls. I have to do like all of these things. So it's like technology has sort of like sold us this lie of it's going to save us time, but really it's taken up all of our time compared to, you know, 100 years ago or 150 years ago, that it's like once the sun was setting, the day is done, right? You have hours to meditate or to learn how to play an instrument or something. So, you know, I think, again, this issue of like, how much time do you have to be able to dedicate to your training is a significant one. And so what are your thoughts of like, what's the minimum viable amount of time that people would need to dedicate to their training to see some results?
We have a very clear theory in the Taoist medicine. The energy, the shorter term of energy circulation is 28 minutes and something, let's say half an hour. When this turn around, it gives the information of whatever happened during this half an hour. What does it mean? It means if I do energetic thing for less than half an hour, I will have awakened my energy, but it's nothing. If I do more than half an hour, the information I did will have been completely going into my system, which means if I do a lot of half hour, it will in fact transform who I am. Same for my mind. The young energy is going into 28 minutes or around, which means if I meditate for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, it's good. It's a micro nap. It's nice. But to actually start to change my mind, I have to do slices of 30 minutes. For my body, when I exercise, if I do physical stuff, if I do less than half an hour, I will warm up my body. It will increase blood circulation, but it will not transform my tendons and my fascia. Once again, circulation of yang qi, at least half an hour. Then if you really want to train, it's 90 minutes, 3 times half an hour. Then you have a training that will actually change you. This is the beginning of internal alchemy. Now, we have a solution for the phone, for example. 100 years ago, if you were in a rich family, you had people working for you. Then if you need something, you will say, hey, come in. Can you do this and that for me? And then you send him back. Today, we don't. But the phone is the master. He's going, hey, look at me. I have something to show you. This is the notification. This is the biggest evil, the notification. First thing we have to do, everybody listening to this video, first thing, cut off all the notification. Then maybe leave the ringing of your phone. And then in the day, when you feel like, oh, did I get email? Then go and look for email. If you get notification to see a guy that has a pretty cat that is dancing, you can wait a minute to see it, you know? Don't use the notification. Completely stop notification. And second thing, organize your everyday. Organize it. Unless you have internal discipline, a natural discipline, organize your everyday. You work from then to then you stop working. But really, you do not answer email, you stop working. Anyway, the notification will be off. Second thing, plan stuff for distraction. You need distraction. Everybody needs distraction. Even in our old text from the Tang Dynasty, we talk about distraction. We need to have distraction. But it's a small amount of thing. We can watch Netflix, but it's 1 hour, 2 hours, a big movie, 2 hours. But then I stop. I do not zap on TV. I go on TV to see something, but I don't put TV on and then wait for something to catch me. I look at what I want to see, then I go see it. I do not let my phone call me. I use my phone because it's my machine. I'm not his machine. And then if I organize my life good, I know that at 10 o'clock at night, I should go slowly to bed or start reading in bed to go to sleep maximum at 10:30. I should wake up between around 6 o'clock. It's good. And then I should organize my life. And unless I can organize my life good, I have to write it on paper and make like a discipline chart that I will follow. But if you do that for 1 month, you will already be a different person.
Yeah, I think, that's really what discipline comes down to, right? Is setting limits for yourself that you stay within. And that's one of the conversations that I've been having with both my boys and trying to discuss about, like, okay, entertainment is fine, but it should be just a small slice, right?
You know, it works for my students. It works for me because I've been raised like this long time before all these problems. And it works for my students because they follow pretty much what I explain to them because they trust the tradition. If not, they go away. But it doesn't work for my daughter. Of course not. Yeah. She's 14. There is no way she's doing that.
Right.
But there is one beautiful thing in discipline that we have to remember. It comes from an old text of the 7th century in Taoist writings. And he explained discipline is the most wonderful things because discipline doesn't need any training. Discipline doesn't need any help. Discipline is available to you right now. All you have to do is to do it. Nothing to do. It's there. Stop eating bad stuff. I can do it already. I stopped doing it and it's done. It's finished.
So as we're getting ready to wrap up, can you tell us a little bit more about, well, two things, because one, if you can talk a little bit more about how the programs that you're developing for the universities, and then two is where can people follow up with you and learn more about your online programs if they're interested?
The first thing is that for years we had a very close school because I didn't believe into teaching outside too much. Then if you look at my name, Serge Augier, sergeaugier.com, or sergeaugier.fr, or Daxuan.fr. If you type my name, you find me because I have more than 20 books, then it's easy to find me. You find my website and you can join the online program. But for people who are hesitant, who don't really know, we have now for nearly 1 year a completely free website with complete Taoist training for free, for everybody for free. It's called Daxuan for all, daxuanforall.com. If you type that, you have a complete training of Taoist training for free. Then it's not about making business. It's really about if you do it, you will feel better. Whoever you are, whatever you are, if you do it, you know yourself, your body, your breath better, then you are better. And then for the university, I will leave the link of the university because the whole program comes from my tradition. I teach all the courses. I mean, I taught the courses to the guys that made the program of the university, but I'm not very good at exactly how you apply and everything. But you will have the link and you will look because I'm only the teacher. I'm not good at the other things.
Okay, very cool. So I'll definitely check out the Dashwan for All website myself, especially I'm going to point my boys to it because actually both my boys are very interested in lucid dreaming. So I think they might find that interesting to have sort of some more detailed information about those types of things. But so I always like to finish with two questions for people that are somewhat, they're still on topic, but somewhat off topic. So the first one is, apart from your own books, what's a gift that, or what is a book that you have gifted most often to your students or other martial artists that you feel would help them further on their path?
Books is difficult because I really think today what benefits the most to students are just big classical books, not talking about martial art or meditation, but talking about the tradition of being a human being. Then I would really advertise some Victor Hugo, Maupassant, like a real old big books from the classics, because in fact this will bring you a lot more as a focus of capacity of reading, and maybe for some of you the discovery of this big thing with papers inside, because we need that, and this will bring more to your evolution than any books that I saw on martial art meditation, because not so interesting.
Right, something to transform your mind.
Yeah.
And if you just, with your experience that you have now, what's something that you wish you knew in the beginning that you knew now?
I think the most important realization I got over the years is I knew when my teacher was teaching me, I knew I will have to teach. I knew it. And I lost a lot of time to be a teacher that tried to convince my students. I really wish that I got the knowledge a lot sooner, but when you teach, and it's like pointing direction where the student has to dig, has to work himself. And then I would lose a lot less time trying to push them, help them, because in fact it doesn't work, and it makes the students and the teacher in a tension where you try. Don't try. You have systems and you have methods. This is one method, doesn't work, or this is the second method, doesn't work, this is the third method. And then you give them a lot more freedom, and it works a lot.
Sort of like Morpheus says in the Matrix, where it's like, she can just show you the door, but you have to walk through it yourself.
But you know, that's the name of my tradition, because we call it Daxuan because it's simpler, but it's Bamen, Daxuan, Ziranmen. And at the end, Men, the door, is really this. Is saying in a lot of older tradition of Taoism, you always had the name door, not pi like school. but the name, the door, because
Mm.
you are presented with a door, but nobody can pass through the door. You are the one doing it. Then the door has a big meaning in our school.
Very interesting. Well, we'll wrap this one up for today, Serge. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
This is one of the most fascinating interviews that I've done so far. There's, I mean, we could talk for hours. I think there's so much
Yes.
more here. So I really encourage people to check out all the links that we'll leave in the video description below, or that we'll have included in the article, so that people can follow up with you and learn more. Serge, I
Excellent.
appreciate you so much, bro.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.